Alright, shalom, shalom. It's your brother Yakwa from the GM Chicago branch coming at you with another lesson through the spring fire by Shemina Shah. Before I start off, I can start by giving all praise on the glory due to Yahweh by Hashem Shai by Hashem Kakadash. God bless to the apostle, great millstone will. And say to all you brethren doing this work in truth, sincerity, with charity. Alright, basically I'm gonna hop into another lesson. Lord will be edifying through the spring fire by Shemina Shah. And I'm gonna touch in basically, staying spiritually minded, all right, staying in the spirit, as I said, right, and basically, knowing that a nothing good dwelleth in this flesh, man, because the flesh, wants to be comfortable, all right, the flesh, wants to be lazy, all right, the flesh wants to, fulfill the lust of the flesh, right. And as long as we're staying righteous, all right, staying in the spirit to the best of our ability, we combat that, man, all right, and there's less room for error, man, all right. So with that, I'm just hop into some precepts, and Lord will, like I said, to be edifying. This is Sirach chapter 2, verse 2. It says, set thy heart aright and constantly endure, make not haste in the time of trouble, right? Set thy heart aright, all right, which, we know that word heart goes into the word lab in the Hebrew, all right, which means mind. Right, so set thy mind aright, man. How do you set your mind aright? By making sure it aligns with the scriptures, man. All right, it says that we should put these scriptures on as frontlets, man. So we should wear, this wisdom as, chains around our neck, man. Gold, gold chains, man. All right, so forth and so on, etc., man. Right, but we have to set our mind right, making sure that, everything that we're doing and thinking aligns with the will of Yahweh B'Shem Shai. Right, and constantly endure. So this is a thing of we have to do this daily, man. Right, into the kingdom of heaven. All right, it's set up. All right, we receive those new bodies. All right, well we won't go off. We won't sin. All right, we won't think about folly, so forth and so on, man. All right, this is Proverbs 16:3. It says, "Commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established." All right, so if we commit ourselves to Yahweh Shema Shine, His way, His will. All right, our thoughts will be established. Scripture says, wisdom shall meet thee in every thought, man. All right, the scripture says, the fear of the Lord driveth away sin, right? So if we commit our works unto Yahweh Shema Shai, our thoughts are going to be established in righteousness, man. All right, there's going to be less room for error, man. All right, but if you, constantly, fulfilling the flesh, all right, and going after the desires of the flesh, all right, slothfulness, all right, too much, debauchery, man, all right, whatever the case may be, doing things without moderation, whatever it may be, all right, then you're going to find yourself constantly slipping more and more, man, all right, but if you establish your works in Yahweh B'Shem Shai, all right, it's going to be easier, right? This is Jeremiah 17:9. It says, the heart is deceitfully wicked above all things and desperately wicked. It's like the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? All right. So the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked, man. Like I said, man. All right, the flesh, all right, just wants to enjoy itself, man. All right, don't like being put in uncomfortable positions, man. That's why even when you do something that's hard, most things that's hard for you is beneficial. Working out, all right, fasting, studying, reading, whatever the case may be, man. These things, it seems tedious, it seems hard, all right, because the flesh don't like it. Because why? It's not, you're not, pleasing the flesh, man. You're not sedating it with different, chemicals, drugs, whatever the case may be. All right, you're not stuffing a bunch of chemical induced foods down your mouth, man. All right, even when you eat healthy, sometimes the food tastes bland. Whatever the case may be, it might not be as good as all this bullshit that's really out here. But it's good for you, man. Right? See, but the flesh likes everything that's not good for it, man. Right? It gets a thrill off. Things that's not beneficial for your spirit, man. Right? And we have to realize that, man, and fight against that, man. This is a fight, man. The scripture says, I put my flesh under subjection. Least I be a castaway. So every day we have to put our flesh under subjection. We have to fight, man. Right? We have to fight, you know, to be righteous, man. We have to fight to, you know, keep our flesh at bay, man. You know, because this flesh wants to be wicked, man. Right? This is Proverbs 3:5. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not into thy own understanding. Acknowledge him in all thy ways, and he shall direct thy paths." So we have to trust in the Lord with all our heart, man. Right? Choosing his way rather than our own way, man. All right? And not choosing our own understanding, man. Going back to the scripture, because the scripture says, "A way seemeth right to a man, but the end thereof is death," man. You know? And you will be thinking about something that, you know, the flesh will make it seem like it's logical, but at the end of the day, it's really going off, man. But it feel right? That's why the scripture says that the heart is deceitfully wicked, man. Right? It just feel like that's the right way, because I'm gonna feel good if I do that. If I go the other way, it's gonna be harder. It's not gonna feel good. Why am I doing this? Right? But that's the right way, man. Right? We have to understand, all right, that these scriptures are true, man. All right, that we're actually in a spiritual war, man. You know, the spirit warring against the flesh, man. All right, and if you let the flesh win, then you will be destroyed, man. All right, when the Lord returns, or even before, man, when these plagues begin to hit the earth, man. All right, you're not gonna be protected, man, because you couldn't, you know, fight the good fight, like Paul said, man. What you think Paul meant, right? Paul was in the flesh, just like us, man. He fought against the flesh, man. Right? This is Romans 7:17. It says, "Now," and this is Paul. It says, "Now then it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwelleth in me." Paul understood that, you know, like he said, verse 18, "For I know that in me, which is in my flesh, dwelleth no good thing. For to will is present with me, but to perform that which is good I find not." It says, "For the good that I do not, but the evil which I would not, that I do." Right? You know, so it was a constant battle, man. Right? You know, you want to do something good, right? But that, you know, it's hard. But, you know, the things that you don't want to do, you end up slipping up and doing it, man, sometimes, man. Right? But that's where, the grace and the mercy of Yahweh Bashim Yahshua comes in. You know, he is our propitiation, our atonement for the sins. But we're not just out here willingly pleasing the flesh, man. It's a fight, man. Right? And the Lord loves a fighter, man. You know, he wants to see you actually fight. Even if you slip and fall, like he said, a just man falls 7 times to get back up. At least you're still fighting. If you stay down and just continue to keep sinning, right, then you're not fighting. At this point, you gave in to the flesh, and guess what? That's your salvation, man. The Lord is going to destroy you, all right, in these last days, man, right? You know, this is Romans 8:20. It says, "For the creature was subject to vanity, not willingly, but by the same reason, who have subject the same in hope," right? You know? So we're in this flesh, man. All right, and this flesh is just straight vanity, man. Right? So we're subject to it, man. Right? But we have to fight. Right? We have to keep that hope, man. Right? That hope, man. You know, because ain't none of us perfect, right? But like the scripture said, man, if you order your steps in the Lord, he shall direct thy path, man. It's like he shall direct thy thoughts in righteousness. You know, so just strive to stay in the spirit, right? Continue to read the scriptures. Continue to keep these words within your inward parts, right? Continue to rehearse the righteous acts, right? You know, flee from overindulging in anything, right? And the Lord, he's gonna continue to keep you, man. So Lord will us edifying with that, man, by giving all praise and glory to Yahweh Bashim Yahshua Bashim Kakadash. Belongs to the Apostle Great Millstone or Will, and salutations to you, brother, doing this work of choosing city of charity. Till next time, shalom and a ball of ball.